Live on WFLA Now. This is Run for Fun with running enthusiast Lee Spann.
All right, welcome back to the Stream Center for this week's episode of Run for Fun. This show focuses on ways to help you love running rather than thinking it's something that's hard to do every single day. Believe it or not, there are ways to make it fun. I'm your host, Lee Spann. I'm a meteorologist at WFLA in Tampa, but I'm also an avid runner and who spent years running and kind of running myself into the ground. I'm lucky that I was able to find a group of runners who focused more on the enjoying of the sport. And then that helped me to learn to do the same. And as you know, the number one person in that group was Coach Maria. So we're glad Coach is back again.
I'm back.
How have you been recently?
I've been really good. I actually led my new run group's run last weekend, which was really hard. Like, we had to set out the course and set up the coolers, and we had a good time.
And you've been living in your new city now for about a year.
Yeah.
So you knew the route. You knew you had to come up with a route. Was there a distance that you were supposed to choose, or was it just whatever you wanted?
This run club does things. It's really cool, actually. They do a 5 a.m. run and a 6 a.m. run, and they're two different runs. So we had a 6.5 mile course and we had a 13-mile course, and we go out and put out signs. So the person that actually sets up the course doesn't really run. And then we're responsible for driving the course to make sure everybody's okay. And then we put the coolers out and then we put everything away. But we only do it once or twice a year. Everybody takes a turn. So it really is a cool way to do a run club. So if you're thinking about doing a run club, that's something you might want to implement, because then nobody gets burned out.
Right. And
if
then,
there's a lot of people doing it.
About how many people showed up at your run this last
I think
week?
we had between 50 and 60.
Okay, that's wonderful.
So it was really, it was a good group.
You had enough hydration and everything for them. You were, of course,
it was
you
fun.
did.
It was real fun.
So we are, today's topic is about regular meditation practice. And I was saying that, if you're just starting to run on a regular basis, basically the only thing you can really think about sometimes is just running. But there's so much that you can do when you're not wearing your running shoes that impacts your runs.
And especially in most of the people that start running and start coaching and want help are type A perfectionists, typically. And we talk a lot about in our podcast about how our culture kind of glamorizes that perfectionist mindset, but the perfectionist mindset can really get you into trouble with running, because it's just sometimes you have to listen to your body, and sometimes there's no answers. And that can be really frustrating for a type A perfectionist that doesn't have an answer as to why something's not going the right way. So you kind of have to do other practices to kind of fix that so that you can get to the next level with running.
And I was thinking about it, people who, go to the gym a lot, they do a, arm day and they do a leg day and things like that. But with running, it's sort of a full body every day. So you have to be really careful to make sure that you're giving yourself the proper rest, the proper fuel, because every day you're using all of your muscles. So you may remember, and I don't know if Maria wants me to bring this up, but the New Year's resolution from last year was for you to get into your meditation practice. But you actually got that inspiration from who we're going to talk to today.
Yes, I got it from Michael.
We're going to bring in Michael Wilsey. Thank you so much, Michael, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This is so exciting.
Well, so tell us, first of all, where you are, because it is for the people watching, they can kind of see there's kind of crazy things going on behind you.
Sure. I'm at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, and I'm a pediatric gastroenterologist.
And so why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into running and why it has become such a part of your life?
Thanks. I appreciate that. When I was in high school, I played sports and played football, but didn't grow very tall. So then I became a wrestler, and running was kind of a punishment. So we run 2 miles before every practice and whenever you got in trouble. So I really didn't run. And then we moved around and moved to Miami for 10 years, Miami and then Houston, and moved back to Tampa in 2002. And I was about 34 at the time. And we had a group of neighborhood dads. And they'd say, "Oh, Doc, you should come out and run." I'm like, too busy. Yeah, hard to find the time. And then one time I just accepted, and we did this little 2 mile loop. And I had to confess, I'm like, listen, I haven't exercised since high school, and like no problem. So we just jog a little bit until I was out of breath, and then we'd stop and do jumping jacks and do calisthenics, and then jog a little bit longer, and then do push-ups, which I like doing. And I was able to jog to this, to the stop sign, and then able to jog around to the corner. And then after about 2 weeks, I was able to do the 2-mile loop without stopping. And so the running was great, but the connection and the community was fantastic, and I was hooked. And so I started jogging as part of a group, and one of the guys in the group had signed up for a marathon. I'm like, oh, we were only doing 2 or 3 miles at a time. That just seemed so long. And then his daughter was diagnosed with cancer, and he had to drop out, and that really struck me. And I said, and I signed up for a marathon. And one of my buddies like, that's fantastic. What's your half marathon time? Like, never run a half. So he took me for a half marathon. And it was that 1 year. So I went from 0 exercise to marathon within 24 months. And I was very fast at the time. And I set all my PRs, 5K PR, which is same to this day, 20 years later, and half marathon and full marathon all within. And then our run group just sort of broke up. And then just stopped running. And then my good friend, Greg Ryan, a couple years later, I had stopped running for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And we started neighborhood jogging. And so we jogged together. And then all of a sudden I became a jogger. And he was on his path. He was a priest, and then fell in love with one of his parishioners. And that was in medical sales, which he was so talented, but really had a yearning to go back and see his calling. And I got to walk with him during that path. But he said, Michael, you need a run group. And so he looked on the internet. He was moving to take over a parish in Virginia. And he found the group that I joined. And that's how I met Maria. And I talked to her. And then so I joined track. Track was so fun. And I wanted to get fast again, like I'd been when I first started running. And I started meeting with Maria, and she agreed to coach me. And she said, what do you like about running? So I don't like running. I just like the enthusiasm.
Well, I love that picture.
Fall in love with running. I'm like, it's like falling in love with yard work. Why would I fall in love with it? And I changed my mind. And she had me do things like she had me change my password, because you said and I won't tell you what it is on social media, but it's something that I am not a slow runner anymore. And it's just the whole mindset. And then in 2015, Joe Bailey, I was thinking about meditation. I read some things about it, but didn't have any experience with it. And Joe Bailey was one of the guys in our run group, a organizer, just a great guy overall, one of my closest running buddies. And he had said he was using one of the apps, and so one was called the Calm app. And so started using it intermittently, just sort of like doing push-ups or calisthenics or core work. And it worked, it works when you work it. And then I tried some others, Headspace, and I liked it. It was pretty cool. And then I started reading more about it. And then in 2020 is when I started, I found a group of guys that we meet weekly. And we just had an accountability group to start. So running started with the neighborhood, and then I found sort of a running family, and I was connected. Yeah. And then, of course, jobs moved. There was a 2008 financial crisis. Our run group broke up, and then Greg Ryan connected with him about 2010 or so, and then found the current run group through here, as well. Have been involved with Run Tampa, and then with Loud Runners, and then with Ultra Running. Yeah. So I have a large extended running family that's so supportive and nurturing that it's fun and enjoyable.
Yeah, and a lot of times people have their run groups split up and stuff, and that like really wrecks them.
Yeah, you could really take like, hey, really I guess I'm done now. Yeah,
I'm done running now. But it's kind of cool to hear your story about how you found different run groups, and there's always a different run group out there. I mean, you just we've talked about it before. You just kind of have to try to kind of break in a little bit.
Yes, you have to. You have to get. They already have a group. So when you're coming new, I mean, someone as amazing as Michael Wilsey, easily accepted into the group. But, it is kind of like, okay, where do I fit in? These are people are already running. Yeah. Where are they, so just don't be afraid. Everyone wants to help you.
Yeah. Well, the interesting part about Michael doing meditation for me was he didn't really tell me he was doing it. But we were kind of struggling on the track. And in some runs, just he was struggling with what I didn't realize at the time, I was trying, like, I'm always trying to figure out what motivates people, but I'd give him specific paces and he would just, if he couldn't hit it, he would just stop and walk. And I'd be like, what is going on? Like, I know he can do this. I know he can do this. But then it dawned on me after a while. I'm like, he's such a high achieving individual. Doctors, I mean, he has to be a perfectionist in his job or like bad things happen. So a lot of times in like lawyers and doctors, we have people that are just very high functioning. And if they can't hit things perfectly, they stop. They won't do it. And so we started between meditation. He started meditation. He didn't tell me. But then probably 6 months after he was doing it, I noticed stuff on the track. I'm like, wow, he's not quitting track workouts anymore. Like, what's happening? And then it dawned on me, maybe we should change his pacing and we should go more effort-based. And now he's getting PRs again, which is like amazing. So I think it's a combination of, getting into the meditation.
So Wilsey, so you ran, you've been running now for decades. Do you feel a difference in this last 2-3 years that you've been sort of implementing this meditation practice? Do you feel differently? Because I mean, you would think that you were sort of could have been set in your ways after several decades of running.
Yes, I mean, so running now is it's really the focus instead of the outcome. I want to achieve this race. The goal is I just want to do my best, and can I be this best in this mile? In this moment, can I just get to that hill? Can I just do my best up the hill? And to be able to feel good in the process, it's just so rewarding. And I did a race last weekend, not this weekend, but the past. Went to visit our daughter in Austin, and of course, busy work week, and showed up. It was a downhill race, and thought, I'm not feeling great. I'm not feeling 100%. Well, let's just have some fun and see what happens. And went easy on the downhills, best effort on the uphills, and and I set a personal record. Faster now. I'm going to be 55 this year than I was 20 years ago. I'm not physically stronger now, but I'm mentally present and very mindful of self-talk.
Yeah.
I enjoy helping others and cheerleading others. And someone pointed out, saying, well, see, why don't you just cheerlead yourself? So I will tell myself when I'm grinding, going uphill, like, good job, Wilsey. Nicely done. You got this, buddy. And I'll tell, and it's so motivating. I'm like, yeah, we're ready to go. Let's get this. And doing hard work is not daunting anymore.
I have a question. First of all, how long did it take you to meditate before you started feeling more comfortable with it? And how long?
It took a while. 2015 started intermittently. I'd listen to it, and I tried to sit. I'm such a high active guy, and then I did some reading and others, and talked about there's formal meditation where you just sit, deep breath in, deep breath out. Someone said, Michael, you can just go into the bathroom. The first person who taught me how to meditate. Go into the bathroom, light a candle. Stare at it and don't blink until you have to blink, then blow it out. And then you'll see this light, and then it'll start to move, and then it'll come back again, start to move, and then come back again. And just did that. And then some slow, deep breaths in and out. 1 minute meditations are fantastic.
Did you tell your family you were doing this before you started doing this in the bathroom? No.
No.
They're not like, what's Dad doing in the bathroom?
He lit a candle, y'all. We know what he's doing.
Yeah. What I found is that a 1 minute meditation is 5 slow, deep breaths.
Okay.
That is
breath in. It's so calming. I find it, running is great, but running is just a small part of my life. I do it before I go into a tough case. So I do endoscopic surgical procedures such as ERCP and stent placement and dilation of esophageal strictures, taking some slow, deep breaths in and out, getting focused, being fully present, and being my best, and not being distracted by, you've got, 3 more consults after this procedure. You need to make sure you pick up the clothes on the way home, and not worrying about all that other stuff.
So how often do you do it?
So now I'm a daily meditator.
Okay.
I use a Calm app. I was just looking. So I'm coming up on, I don't keep track numbers, but I did peak today. So I'm coming up on 3,000 meditation sessions.
Wow.
I know, right? 2,970. And I try not to be.
Do you do it at the same time every day?
I try at the same time every day. I'll do it I'd like being an informal meditator. So what'll happen is I'll park at the YMCA in the morning, and then I have a 1 mile jog to Bayshore. I love running at Bayshore. If I'm running solo, I'll listen to a 10-minute meditation, and then I'll listen
While
to it
you're
again
running?
while I'm running.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'll listen to it while I'm running. And, in the morning, it's just a little distracted, looking at the water, looking at the lights, make sure I don't step on a crack, make sure I don't, and so it's not as focused, and I'll listen to it again. And then after like the second or third time, then I really get into it, or I'll listen to a second one or a third one.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll spend an hour or more just listening to 8 to 10-minute guided meditations.
Okay.
Informal meditation, Thich Nhat Hanh talks about, when I'm walking up the stairs, can I pay attention to every step that I take? When I'm washing the dishes, can I feel the soap? Can I smell the fragrance? Can I feel the texture? And it's just about being present and alive. Because that's where life is.
Well, and I do think that people, like I'm showing these pictures of people, sitting there with their, their ohm hands.
Doing right?
And so, I mean, but you're talking about things that you can do that don't interfere with, with you're going upstairs anyway, so if you could
100%.
use that minute to go up the stairs and focus, then that's your, I would say that's sort of the gateway into doing more of these longer, ways of meditating.
And that's sort of a Western thought. I grew up as a Westerner, I'm a Midwestern kind of guy. I grew up on the West Coast of Florida. And so I try to learn about Eastern meditation just because I've felt the effects. But how can I do it practically in 2023? And, so trying to be present and so slow, deep breathing. I think we've all had the experience of walking through the woods, and just being struck by light shimmering through the trees, or the cresting of water, listening at the beach, or just at night, just looking up at the stars and just being awestruck. That's meditation. That's being fully present.
Is that the part that you think has helped you with your running the most? Like, do you think
100%?
That
100%.
part, like because you're staying in the mile that you're in, or you're staying in the interval that you're in on the track, and you're not thinking about what's ahead. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Coach Maria, because I would fight. I'd feel like I was on the struggle bus. Coach Maria would say, we have a track group, which I love. And we would say, and I'd never want to know what the workout was, because sometimes it would be a hard workout, which means one that I didn't like.
Yeah.
Right. And then someone just said, well, how easy would it be if you wanted to do it? Right? How easy would it be if you wanted to do this mile repeat workout?
Which we did this morning on the track. I wondered if you heard through the grapevine.
Oh, I'm glad I missed it.
Yeah. No, you're good at mile repeats now. Oh my gosh. It's like your strength.
Amazing, right? And because someone said, how easy would it be? They asked me the question, how easy would it be if you wanted to do it? Because if you don't want to do it, there's only one reason. There's only one reason. It's because you've decided you don't want to do it. What about if you changed your mind? Right? Because I don't have a problem with my own conception of anything.
Yeah.
And so one thought is, change your mind, change your life. And so Coach Maria, one time she was training for an ultra marathon, which was anything over 26 miles. And she gave me a hard workout of a 10-mile workout, followed by a 20-mile the next day, and then a day off, and then mile repeats, which had been like
I was a jerk back then, Lee. No.
That was just 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh, wait, right. I'm still a jerk. Yeah, right.
And then she called me. She's like, Wilsey, what's going on with you? I expected you to bail on one of those 3 workouts. Yeah. Those 3 workouts in 4 days.
Yeah,
and that's when I told you, I'm like, I've been meditating. And I didn't fight it.
And honestly, shocked. I have been shocked in the last 2 years. Like, I am not, because I have pulled every trick I have out of my hat to try to get him. Like, I took him on a run one time to just screw with his head, because I'm like, I'm going to make sure he doesn't quit. I'm going to go left here, right here. I'm going to go through puddles because he hates puddles. I'm going to go through the sidewalk. Even that didn't work. Like, I couldn't. And so I was just like, I literally noticed he didn't tell me. And I was like, what is going on? You've not skipped a run. You've not missed. Like, the tempo was his nemesis. He hated the tempo. Now he rocks a tempo run. He rocks everything on the track. Like, he's so in it. And I'm like, that's why I started.
Well, that's what I was
meditation.
About to say. You were inspired.
I'm gonna have to do meditation.
But you were inspired by what Wilsey was doing.
Yes.
But then I don't think I think you were trying to jump too far into it.
Yes,
Like you didn't,
I agree.
like you
I
were,
agree.
okay, I got to sit in this dark spot and I got to,
Yeah.
and it became a
Yeah.
chore, which then became something that you didn't want to
Yes,
do because the
100%.
one thing you don't want to do is, you're
Yeah.
choosing not to do it.
Like
Yeah.
this is super helpful. I didn't.
Yeah, and 2000 was a tough year. I was chief of the medical staff at the hospital. We started, it was our New Year's resolution. All right, January 1st, let's start daily med, and then we keep up. And then, we did 30 days, we did 60 days. Well, at the 75-day mark, the world shut down. COVID-19
Yeah.
hit, and I was an essential worker, so I came to work every day, and I was so worried, not about my kids who were healthy, but my wife. What about if she gets COVID? And I was coming home every day and, changing and washing hands. And there was a feeling of uncertainty,
Yeah.
vulnerability.
Mhm.
And it just was so palpable that finally at the point I just said, I got to let go. I can't prevent it. And I have to go to work. I have to take care of patients and children. But I can't be so frightened about you dying or my wife dying from COVID-19. That's what it was. And just this letting go and meditation was so helpful with the concept of acceptance.
Yeah.
Acceptance, I used to think that acceptance means I like it or I acquiesce. Acceptance just means it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's a
And that's so important in running too. It's
Yeah,
like when you talked about in the beginning about how you had to let go of the outcome.
Yes.
So many of us struggle with that. We want to get a PR. Today's the day we got to get a PR. And then we put all this pressure on ourselves. And then we screw ourselves out of the PR because we are so anxious and we're so stressed and we think things should be a certain way. And then we get halfway through the race and we're like, it's not the way I expected it to be. So, and then we
Exactly.
get, and now like, if you stay in that moment, I try to say things like, oh, just because you have one bad mile doesn't mean you're going to have 4 bad miles. But through meditation, that's a lot better way to just kind of be able to. Now, when you're running, like in a race, do you like come back to that meditation, like while you're running? Like
Sometimes.
if you start to struggle, do you use that? Or is it just like, do you think it's like residual effects from the calm?
Oh no, I use it throughout.
Okay.
A couple of times that have happened. Again, my friend Greg Ryan, he developed AML, and he was at Duke Medical Center, and he was talking about terrible bone pain. And I was like, Greg, what did you do? He said, well, they'd ordered the morphine PCA pump, but it would take a while. And he said he would just breathe it. He was a man of faith, and so he'd breathe in, God is, and then out with me. And he just breathed over and over, and it became a mantra, and it helped him get through searing bone pain. And she was sharing that with me, I'm like, I don't experience pain like that. But a couple times my phone has died or something on, and I've done breathe in, God is, breathe out with me. Or I breathed in, just whatever mantras, strong or pains. And that's gotten me through tough miles. I remember there was a 4-mile pace run. And of course, it's hot in Florida and it was humid. It was June or July or something. My phone died. I used to try to bury myself with music, and I just had to go with peace. And it was just one breath at a time. And then it was the mile, then 2 miles, then 3, then 4. And it's like, wow, that was fantastic.
Well,
And so typically, like when I run, I don't listen to music. I'll listen to a metronome, just a constant, peaceful. Sometimes I'll listen to guided meditations because they're 10 or 12 minutes. So that's a mile and a half. That just gets and in a peaceful mind. And then the last part, like for that half marathon, I waited until mile 10 and a half because that's when it got hard, and then switched over to music.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. So if you said early on, you're not as fast as you were 20 years ago, yet you set a PR
20
this
years
time.
older.
So what about, is it the mindset? Like why can you run faster for 13 miles now than you could 20 years ago, but you say you're not faster?
I think running economy is probably a little better. Physical strength, I'm not as strong as I used to be when I was in my 30s. Mental presence, I slow down less. Jen talks about, it's not about who runs the fastest, who slows down the least.
Yeah.
And can I get through the bad patches? Bad patches used to just nip me in the heels, and it could be rain, it could be phone.
Oh, when I tell you, he used to get so mad when not like not like externally mad, but I mean, he's called me from race courses, but like frustrated. I'm like, I mean, he is like so solid now. I don't like, I used to worry about him every race. And now I'm like, oh, Willsie's racing. He's got it. Like, I, I can't not tell you that he's a completely different runner than he was when he first came to me. Just
And you
a
feel
completely
that,
different runner.
Wilsie?
Oh, absolutely. And it's really the focus of acceptance. Like, can I just accept it's what it is today? Maybe it's raining, maybe it's cold, maybe it's hot, maybe things just aren't 100%. Just a firm belief. Just because things aren't going my way doesn't mean there's something wrong. It just
Yeah,
means the universe's plan for my life is a little different than my plan.
that's right.
Things are
Just
unfolding a little
because I'm
bit.
not having a good day doesn't mean there's something wrong. That's
Exactly.
huge.
And that's
Yeah.
something new that came from this meditation practice, because clearly you'd be like, oh, I
Exactly.
guess I need to just quit because it's not going
Nope.
right.
Yeah.
This is my
And
challenge for today, and this is where the
he
growth
had a
is.
lot of injuries, like before he had a lot of injuries, and he hasn't. When's the
100%.
last time you were injured? He hasn't had an injury in years.
Oh, not that it stops. I remember I
No.
called Maria, a coach from the race one time, like, oh, I've torn my hamstring again. She's like, it's 80 degrees. I bet you're cramping. No, it's not. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I tore
That's
this
a story you
hamstring.
told yourself.
Sure enough, yep, I rehydrated. It went away. I'm like, oh, I did. I just had a cramp.
Yeah. But he's
Yeah,
done really
not
well.
giving up.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
And
giving up when it's frustrating, when you hit the first obstacle, and then getting into negative self-talk. Oh, this isn't good. You're not going to hit a PR. Because when I used to be outcome focused, then it was about achieving rather than about a process focus, which is just, let's do my best. Let's see what today is. Sometimes I'll get to track a little bit late and don't get as much warm up. Like, oh, the first lap, that's just going to be a warm up lap, and I'll run a little bit slower. But by the middle of the track, it's well. For example, I was meeting some friends for dinner last night. I haven't seen them in. We have a quarterly dinner meeting. And anyway, stayed at work longer. I brought my bags to do a workout, and so I'm gonna run for an hour on the treadmill. But I got out of work late, and I went to one YMCA. Well, it turned out to be a daycare, and it didn't even have treadmills. And I was like, well, I guess I won't get a run in. I'm like, that's not sitting well. Not that I have to achieve, but I feel better. I'm like, I bet I could just run from the restaurant. So I went to the restaurant, changed, got a 20-minute run in.
Is better
shared with
than
the guy.
nothing. Love it.
Felt so good. And not because I didn't hit the 1 hour run. I got 20 minutes in, and it just felt I got to feel
I
a sense of
love that story, Wilsie. I love that story.
Yep.
well,
Oh, my heart was like, this felt great.
Well, because so many people are like, oh, if I can't get my full hour in, I'm not going to do it. Like, it's just not, I'll make it up another time, which I hate the makeup runs. I really do hate that.
We're up in Safety Harbor, and I was like, dude, I just went 5 minutes this way, and I was in beautiful Oaks and then Spanish Moss. I'm like, oh yeah, I used to live here. It's fantastic. I thought I was going to run strip malls, around the restaurant up in Safety Harbor, and it just
you
worked
just
out
put
great.
20 minutes in your aerobic capacity bank that you
That's it.
wouldn't have had in there, or before that. So
Yep.
it's a great, and I have noticed a huge difference in you, Wilsie, and it's been fun to watch. Like, it's been really fun.
I mean, my thing is, I want to go back to, if I, as a person who doesn't do it,
Right.
what would your suggestion be for me or someone starting out? Because it seems so daunting.
Me too.
I mean,
Me
obviously,
too.
it
Give it to me,
it
Wilsie.
even
Give
took
it to
Coach
me.
down. Like she,
Yeah, it took me down.
Yeah, for sure. Really is find your jam. What do you like to do? Are you a runner? Do you, if you're an exerciser, well, do you like group classes? Do you like to run outside? Do you like to, my son loves to run. He loves to run on the treadmill. He doesn't like waking up early. He doesn't like going outside when it's hot. He likes listening to a podcast or watching a video, and that is his jam. And for meditation would be, what's your jam? So guided meditations for me, because I'm
That would probably help me.
runner. I like being with others. I like someone talking to me.
And what do they say?
Yeah.
So it's the ones that I like are Jay Shetty's, the Daily Jay. He tells a story, sort of a narrative. And actually,
Is that on the Calm app?
On the Calm app, yeah.
That's on the Calm
And
app.
it's
Okay.
7 minutes, so it's right at my attention span.
Yeah.
And it's mostly attention span, and then he takes 3 slow, deep breaths, and then it's more story, and that's about it. So he's just sharing some wisdom. Another one is mostly we'll have a little bit of an intro and then a longer pause of deep breathing with some intro. Okay, deep breathe that. I used to have the mindset I had to stay still the whole time,
Right.
and that's not the
Yeah.
case. There's a 30-day how to meditate on the Calm app, which was great. And I'm blanking on his name, but it's 30 in a row, and it just teaches you like meditation is just like sitting still and chilling out and deep breath in and just having a focus. And the strength comes from not from staying still, but when the mind wanders, it's coming back. He
Yeah.
said that's like doing a mental
That's where I
push-up.
struggle.
And I could relate. It's not getting mad because your mind wanders, because it's going to wander. It's like a puppy, right? You don't get mad when the puppy wanders, but it's good when it comes back.
Well,
And
it's
when
so
it comes-
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable for me. It's really uncomfortable. But
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to
It
sit in the
practice.
uncomfortable.
It's awkward.
Yeah.
It's sort of like going to the gym the first time. It's awkward, and I don't feel comfortable. I'm feeling comfortable with body image issues, and being there. But with practice, it gets a little easier. And for me, low expectations. And when I heard informal meditation, I'm like, oh, that's my jam. I listen to it when I'm folding clothes. I listen to it when I'm doing dishes.
That's interesting.
And
That is sort of
I
meditative.
think I could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
Informal
ton
meditation.
of research on it now too, and there's a lot of science backing it in terms of
Yes.
like even with cognitive behavioral therapy, because I did that with a counselor once, and he would do a guided meditation for me after my counseling session every single week.
Right.
And it was like squeezing your eyes really tight and letting it go, and then your ears are really tight and letting it go, and taking deep breaths, and you go through your whole body and do it. That worked really well for me. But the science behind it is that it calms your nervous system down. And so if you
100%.
calm your nervous system down enough, instead of the fight or flight, like when you start to get stressed, your body will go toward that, the calm instead of the anxious.
Which can then help when you're running or when you're doing
Yeah.
whatever it is athletic that you're trying to do, and you're starting to get stressed out, and that cortisol level starts
It can
popping.
your nervous system knows how to calm
knows
down.
how to calm itself down.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to be,
Exactly.
and Wilsey, I think you were at a point where you were willing to accept this. So I think that someone has to come to meditation knowing that, like, okay, my life is going to, if I let it, my life can change. But you have to know that that's you have to be ready for it. I mean, your whole, sort of stance on life kind of changed.
It did. Initially it was about running, and I read books on mental endurance and how to, because I hated the feeling of quitting.
Yeah.
I when I was working so hard and then quitting and then getting hard on myself, and
Mhm.
No one treated me as badly as I treated myself,
Yeah.
and just hard on myself, and I made I've given up lots of things for Lent, and one was self, I don't criticize myself. I gave up complaining last year. That was amazing. You want to have a great life, stop complaining.
Yeah, that's
Um,
crazy. We should do a
Round
whole
of applause for that.
100%.
It's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
and not self-criticism. So then it wasn't hard to make a mistake, and then just best effort. And I got a chance to blow up at a couple of races. How fast do I go? Oh, that's too fast. But it's a 5K and it's fun.
Yeah, we talked. That was actually last episode. We talked about that if you, sometimes you go as fast as you can, and if you blow up, then that just lets you know where you are. It's a learning
Show up
process.
and blow up is a learning
Exactly.
it is. But sometimes it can get into your head too much.
Right.
So I think Wilsey
Yeah.
had just gotten that into his head a little too much.
It's been so profound, all around, both with the running, but life. And for me, it was that critical point of the COVID pandemic. Now we're out of and we get like COVID fatigue. Like, I'm tired of COVID.
Yeah.
But if you remember those early days where there was just so much fear and uncertainty and vulnerability, I felt something inside of like, it is what it is. I just have to accept this is COVID, accept that I might get it, accept it. And I stopped worrying about it.
And isn't that the
is,
metaphor for life again?
Mhm.
Like
yes,
there's like
100%.
worry, like complaining. Worry does nothing. It doesn't do anything. And I'm the queen of it. Like, I will worry mostly about my children because I think about, oh my gosh, what would I do without them? What would happen if, but you can't go there. You just have to have other practices that stop you from going there, especially when they're teenagers.
And when they're adults, and when they're 30. And I know that my mom is listening right now because she watches every episode. In my 40s, I can
Mom,
promise
she's
you
doing
that
great.
Mom
She's
is
doing-
still,
she's
is
doing
still
great. I
worrying
promise
as
you.
we speak. She goes through a long line of worriers, and she's sitting there right now worried about me. But but I try not to give her too much to worry about.
But it's not productive, and all it does is stress you out even more. And so I don't know.
And it's a habit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a habit that we develop, and then it becomes an obsession when we worry, and then it becomes anxiety.
Yeah.
And it's a way of escaping being here. If I'm worrying about the future, I don't have to deal with this big project on my desk. I don't have to worry about this
That's
deadline
interesting.
coming up. I don't have to worry.
Mind
it's a
blown,
habit,
right?
it's a form
Mind
of
blown. You don't
escapism.
have to be here if you're thinking about worried about the
Yeah.
next
Oh
thing.
yeah, that was very enlightening for me. It is sort of like workahol. We can work, we can do other things to escape being here. But worrying is a habit that then can become an obsession, and then can become. And we've seen an explosion of just anxiety in kids, such social media prompting. Because
yeah.
when I judge my insides to your outsides, I lose every time. When I look at people's social media
Wow.
feeds and others.
Oh.
This is what, can you,
But-
what if Wilsey was your doctor as a child? Like, wouldn't
I know,
you
it'd
just
be
love
so
that?
great. So
Yeah.
great. I actually would like him if he was my doctor as an adult.
As an adult, yes. he focuses on children, so I'm glad.
But yeah, Wilsey's a big helper, and he's, helped a lot of people. But it's been fun to watch Wilsey, and I appreciate you coming on here and talking to us about this, because I legitimately am interested in it. Like, I feel like if you can do it, I can do it. I've got
It's a game changer. Like if you would have told me, Maria, Wilsey, in your mid-50s, you're going to be faster than you were. And you've seen my
I've
PRs.
known that it was in there. I knew it was in there all along. I knew I'd find it, but I didn't know that it was going to be the combination of good running and years of running and meditation. Like
and meditate.
I really, like, you baffled me for a little while. Like I will be willing to admit that I'm like, he's doing everything right, and I don't understand why we can't cross that threshold. But boy, in the last 3 years, he's just been like on fire.
Yeah, I mean, this was, I keep showing this picture. This is from your PR, the fastest 13.1 you've ever run. And that was 2 weeks ago, last week.
Yeah, and he broke 4 hours in the marathon. And he's, now it's like his bad day, he's still running really well. Like, if he has a bad day, like, he doesn't fall apart. A lot of runners, if they have a bad day, they just like, that's it, I'm out, I can't do it, and they just fall apart. And he stays in the game, even if he's having a bad race. Because I think what a lot of runners don't realize is, even if you're in the best shape of your life, you're going to have some bad races sometimes. You're not meant to have a good race every single time. Like, that's just not, like, even when I was running for those 4 years before my autoimmune, when I was running really well, I had all sorts of times all over the place. So you can't get caught up in a bad race. Got to be able to let it go.
Even the elites. They
Yeah.
have bad races. You can read Matt's
100%.
book. He had bad races, and he's one of the best ever was.
Yeah, and he gets paid to do it. We don't get paid to do it.
Wilsey, we'll let you get back to the thing you do get paid to do, which is help kids and at All Children's Hospital. So thank you so much. You have been inspiring because now you've made it more meditating more accessible, and you can see where, if you just start it, where you could end up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not this higher plane thing. It's like doing core work. I remember Maria said a few years ago, she's like, well, so you need to do some core work. And I started doing it, and it was awkward. And now it's just part of, and I think about meditation is just part of the training, the mental preparation, which, what is the quote? That training is 90% physical and 10% mental, but race day is 90% mental and 10%
100%.
Wow.
Can I just
is
bring
100%.
and be present? Yeah, and you had said bad racer. I don't have bad races anymore. If it's not my day, I'll just finish.
Yeah.
And I'll
As a
jog
bad
it in.
day. Yeah, and honestly, the elites, they do that so well. They're like, meh, bad day, move on. Like our people, we're like, bad day. Oh my gosh, I'm not in the shape. Like, it's just like, there's something wrong. And sometimes there are things wrong. Sometimes there are. But the majority of the time, it is a lot mental. And we don't work on our mental game enough. We don't. And myself included. We don't.
Wilsey has.
Tell everybody it's easy, and the bar is so low, and it can be so simple. It's not this mystic Eastern meditation.
Yeah.
It's just deep. It's just,
and you don't have to do an hour of it. Like,
Right.
sometimes
Yeah,
I feel like when I do yoga, I think that's what I think meditation, because when I'm in yoga, I do meditate, but that's a long time.
Yeah.
It's a really long time. Like,
be just 1 minute, 5 slow breaths. So I've started doing that in races. Like, when I'm hitting a bad spot, a rough patch, I'll just, all right, let's take 5 breaths. And then, and the race that I did, a week ago, I tried to do it, about once a mile, because I hit some spots. I wasn't looking at, because I knew I wasn't feeling well, so I didn't look at my watch at all.
Yeah.
I saw the 150 pace group and I was ahead of them. Then they passed me, and I was like, let's just keep them in sight because you're not 100% today. And
Did you
and then
pass
when
him?
I
You must
started
have passed him again.
I did pass them. I
Yeah.
waited until, and I just hitched myself to them because we had some big uphills around mile 10. And those are ones that I've struggled with. And I've run this race one more time. It's like, I need to just hook with them. And then when I got past them, then the next downhill, I just passed them. And then when I have them in the back, it's a little easier for me to run. When I'm having to catch up,
They're literally chasing
struggling.
you. Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
and
I like having people chasing me.
Yeah.
Chasing people down is a little harder for me.
yeah,
Like Tiger Woods, I like playing from the front.
he
And,
also likes to be a pack runner. So we figured
Yes.
that out about him. Like when he's a lone ranger out there, he struggles a lot more because probably, I bet he would do better now. I bet you would do better now since you've been meditating, but he really gets the energy from the pack. So he does better in
Oh,
pace
absolutely.
groups because he likes to be
Yep.
around the energy. So
Yep.
you got to find out what works for you and
Yeah.
what doesn't work
What's
for
your
you.
jam, right?
What's your jam? We need a t-shirt,
Exactly.
Wilsey. What's your jam?
Because it's not all going to be
Another
the
book-
same.
Another book and app that's helpful is 10% Better. And it's written by I'm blanking on his name. He's a broadcaster and a writer, and he just did a story on it. It's like, what's the deal with this meditation stuff? And he was just very critical of it, and sort of came around to it for all the reasons that Coach Maria had said, the benefits.
Yeah.
And he has an app and to read about. But it's like, what do you do from a Western? I think he's from New York City. And what do you do when you're a skeptical New Yorker and you hear about this meditation?
Yeah, that's me.
stuff?
Oh, I'm not from New York, but
100%,
Boston.
10% better. Yeah, check it out. And read the reviews.
10%
and stuff,
better.
but
Does he have it on Audible?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Perfect.
Yep. And I think he has an app as well that you can do. Read the reviews. He was a reporter, and they reported on it and was uber skeptical. And then he's like,
Do you
hard to argue
yourself
that.
like the Calm app, the Calm app the best?
Yeah, I like the Calm app. I like oh gosh, what's the other one that just popped into my head? I ended up getting the day after Thanksgiving, they had a special. So I ended up just getting a lifetime subscription. So I do that because it's easy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you never have to think about it again.
Yeah.
One less
And
thing to worry
there's
about.
not this, like, there's a different one you can do every day, or do you have
Yes.
to like do the same? Okay.
No, they're all different. And there's different one. There's so many different creators on the Calm app. So, and I don't have any stock in any meditation apps, but just
Yeah.
find one. The other one, I'm so sorry, I'm blanking.
I
on.
did. I had, honestly, last year I was on Calm and Headspace, but I went
Headspace, that's
in
the other
there,
one.
I was like so overwhelmed with the number of choices that I was like, like, I don't know.
Finding
That's how
one-
people feel when they go into a gym or go to meet with a new run group. It's
Gosh,
just you're
darn it, Lee.
overwhelmed. And
Why
then
you gotta talk to me like that?
you just got to go in there and find one that you
All
like.
right, fine. I'm gonna do it,
Yeah.
Wilsey, this year. Now that
Yeah,
I
and
didn't
then
make it a
that's-
resolution, it'll happen
Exactly.
this year, right?
We don't like resolutions.
What I love for beginners is on Headspace. If you go to Netflix, it has the how to meditate, and it has a visual, and it's 10%
okay.
about what's cool about meditation. And then it's a few minutes of, all right, let's breathe. Let's see how it goes.
I
And,
love the visualization of washing your hands and feeling the soap and
Yes.
like I love that. That's great.
Yeah. But how to meditate on Netflix
Okay.
for the Headspace founder. So that's such a perfect intro to meditation because it's science-based. Like, what's the facts
Yeah.
behind it? Why to do it? And then, like, how do you do it? It's
Yeah.
easy. Let's do it together.
Yeah.
All right. The benefits of regular meditation. We've got prime example right here. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Thank you so
Dr.
much,
Wilsey.
We
Have a great day.
appreciate
Thanks
you.
for having me.
Bye. All right. That was amazing. Thank you. All right. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Bye.